We're doing another set of Reddit stories today, this time about dogs. Am I the a-hole for screaming at my pregnant fiancé for not helping me find my dog who had run off? My fiancé, who's 28 years old, is currently 5 months pregnant and has been both fatigued and nauseous lately. I get why she didn't want to help me look for the dog, but I can't get over the lack of empathy and bordering selfish behavior of this either. My dog, who's a 6-year-old Heeler Corgi mix, runs off at least once a week. Usually my fiancé will help me find her, but it's not without protest. I honestly didn't even know how she was getting out of our fenced yard, so I installed cameras and found that she was scaling the 8-foot fence. I ended up attaching spinners to the top of the fence, thinking that would solve the issue, but it didn't. I brought her out today and was playing with her when my phone rang. I was inside just long enough to grab my phone and my dog had gotten out. I immediately went in search for her, thinking she couldn't have gotten far, but I couldn't find her anywhere. So I went back to the house and asked my fiancé, who was curled up on the sofa, to help me. She immediately said no. She said she was tired of chasing the dog, that she isn't dealing with it anymore, and that I should have been out there watching her. I explained to her that I had been watching her and simply stepped away for 0.2 seconds to grab my phone just inside the sliding door, and she had escaped. She again said that it wasn't her problem and she's not exhausting herself anymore to search for my dog. I won't even say it was unexpected because, as I said, in the past she had always had a problem with helping me search, but she's never said no. She just complained about it. At first, I went and searched myself. After maybe a half hour, I came back and asked her again to come help me, and she snapped, "I said no. I'm so tired of chasing that dog around multiple times a week when I'm already exhausted and throwing up constantly." I was panicked and unleashed some yelling, which involved me telling her that she was a bitch who lacked empathy and that I was thoroughly disappointed with my decision to be with someone so heartless. It was out of pure fear and panic on my part, and I did apologize later after I found my dog, but she said, "Go F yourself," and won't talk to me. Am I the a-hole? Everyone is on my side except my sister, who says I'm an effing prick because it's not my pregnant fiance's responsibility to chase around your effing mutt, and said she would have left immediately if her boyfriend ever said what I did to her. Now, I actually completely understand being very stressed out and very angry when a dog has just escaped and you're trying to find the dog and you're worried about the dog getting hit by a car and so on. We have a dog. This has happened a couple of times with our dog, and all the times that it has happened, it has been an extremely stressful situation for all of us. Obviously, after about, I'd say the second or the third time that it happened, we were very much like, this is a problem. We need to be very careful. We're not going to open the door and give him the opportunity to run out. In this situation, if you're putting him out on a fenced yard and then the dog is still escaping pretty often, then you're the person who's making a mistake here. It's completely your responsibility to look after your dog. I could see this being an unreasonable response from the pregnant girlfriend or fiance in this case, if this wasn't common, if this had happened once, twice, even 3 times, and you're stressed out, you need help and you need support, and she doesn't want to, and she's angry and she snaps back, then I would kind of get it. That said, though, given that she is pregnant and given the fact that this happened, she's 5 months pregnant is maybe not the latest pregnancy ever, but it's late enough that I'd be like, I'm not going to run around chasing after a dog. Like, that's not going to happen, depending on where the dog tends to run off to. And then given that this happens at least once a week, in OP's own words, that makes you the a-hole. I think it is completely, like, it's pretty much unreasonable to think that there's any circumstance here in which you are not the a-hole, because you're fundamentally responsible for your dog. If your dog has this type of behavior, and it's a 6-year-old dog, so that's a pretty old dog, that you haven't managed to train this out of them, and that you haven't figured out a way that you can keep them unsupervised without them running away, and you still haven't had enough experience of the dog running away to understand that if you're going to go inside to pick up your phone, then probably your dog will run away, then you're the person who has made all the mistakes in this situation. You've kind of caused it. And it's not fair to then be annoyed or angry at your girlfriend or your fiance for being like, look, I'm not going to support this anymore. This is ridiculous. It's fair enough for her to say that it's ridiculous. So yeah, I understand being stressed out, and sometimes we all say things when we're stressed out that we regret later on, but that was a pretty unreasonable response. Let's go to the next one. This one is titled Boyfriend 57-year-old male moved in and forbids and she's a 48-year-old woman, dogs in the bedroom. She says, we've been dating for 3.5 years, moved in 3 months ago. I used to sleep with my dogs in the bed and the boyfriend tolerated it when he stayed over. I reluctantly agreed to no dogs in the bedroom as part of him moving in. He left zero room for negotiation, so I had little choice to agree. But I find myself pretty miserable without the dogs in the bedroom. I'm angry all the time, and it is because I'm not comfortable with the situation. The boyfriend forbids the dogs in the guest bedroom, where I sometimes sleep when his snoring is too bad. Things have become difficult, and when I told him that I loved my dogs as much as I love him, he got very upset and said he cannot live with someone who believes that. He told me that I have some unhealthy dependency on my dogs. My instinct is to break up with the boyfriend over his no dogs in the bedroom rule. Should I kick him out or learn to deal with his rules about the dogs? Now, from a relationship perspective, honestly, I think you probably should have had a good conversation about the dogs and what you consider acceptable from the dog side of things before you decided to move in. I think that there is a fair argument to be made here that it's her space, it's her room, it's her house, and he's just moving. He's moving into her place. And it's not fair of him to try and dictate how, whether she sleeps with the dogs. It makes sense maybe in the bedroom where he's also sleeping, but maybe in the guest bedroom, it's completely over the top and unfair. And he's trying to control her behavior in her own house with her own dogs. Now, I think this is a mentality that you would get into if you are not looking at this as a long-term relationship in which you actually plan on staying together. He's 57 and she's 48, and they've been dating for 3.5 years. So that's a pretty reasonable amount of time. And they're both pretty old. You know, they are fully grown adults. There is no room here in terms of they're immature and they need time to grow into their relationship or anything like that. At least I don't think that that's reasonable at those ages. So all that said, I think if you're going to have someone move in with you at that point in your relationship, then you should both be on the same page with regards to the dogs. Now, if she says, I reluctantly agreed because he left zero room for negotiation. So he said, there's absolutely no way that I'm moving in and sleeping with dogs in my bed. That's not going to happen. Fair enough. I think that actually, for me, despite the fact that I have a dog and that I love my dog very, very much, we do not sleep with our dog in our bed. And I find the thought of it kind of disgusting because honestly, he rolls around and poop on a semi-regular basis. Like, that's one of the things that he does. Even if we wash him, even if we clean him, like, we're not going to be washing him every single day after he comes back from a walk and he gets in mud, he gets in the forest, you know, he plays around with sticks, so on and so forth. Like, he's a very active, happy dog, but he also gets dirty. And that means that I don't want that in my bed. I don't want that in any other bed in which other people sleep, because I think it's kind of gross for those people. Now, obviously, this is a personal boundary. I understand not being on the same page, but if you're going to move in together, you need to talk to each other about where do we want the dogs, what's reasonable here. I kind of agree with him that as far as I'm concerned, OP does have a pretty unhealthy dependency on the dogs. Like, this idea that she's miserable all the time because the dogs are not sleeping in the same bed. She's angry all the time because she's not comfortable with the situation. Like, unless there's a lot more going on behind the scenes here that she hasn't talked about, that's a pretty unreasonable response to having dogs not sleeping in the same bed as you. Now, I understand that, you know, if you've been doing it for years or whatever, like, you get attached to that, you get comfortable with it. But I would also be like, if you're picking the dogs over the person who in theory you want to be staying with and you expect to be staying with for a good long time, then that's a bit strange. That's a bit of a strange behavior. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think having also this question, my instinct is to break up with him because he doesn't want to sleep with dogs in his bed. That's, I mean, honestly, if you want to break up with him, then that probably means that you should break up, because if this is your boundary and your boundary is someone who accepts living with my dogs the way that I want to live with my dogs, then you're probably not the best possible couple. But do I think it's ridiculous? Yeah, I kind of do. I'm sorry. I really find it totally insane that people get so attached to dogs that they would pick them over people, because I think ultimately human companionship is a lot nicer than a dog. Like, again, I love my dog, but I would never choose his comfort over my husband's comfort. And in general, you can spend so much time with your dogs when you're not sleeping. Like, you don't need to be sleeping on top of them in order to spend time with them and to be close with them and to play with them and so on, or even to hang out with them, actually physically close as well, if that's the part that you're missing, because you're not sleeping in the same bed anymore. So no, I don't think that he's being totally unreasonable here. I think fundamentally she invited someone into her home and he moved in now who does not have the same expectations and the same boundaries around living with dogs that she does. And that's a pretty major problem to have in a relationship where you're living together. Like, this is something that you should have agreed on before you moved in. Now, you'll see some of the comments here. I'll read out a couple of them. This one says, if he moved in with you, how is he making rules in your home? Your dogs and you are used to sleeping together for comfort. Break up with him. You and the animals are miserable in this arrangement, and he's throwing his weight around for no good reason. And I think that this is just unfair. Like, you do not invite someone to move in with you if you're not going to be taking into consideration their wishes, their desires, you know, how to make your house and home comfortable for them as well. And if they're moving in with you having this attitude of, well, you know what, it's my home, these are my dogs, this is my bed, this is my bedroom, then why did you even bother inviting him? Like, why is he even living with you? Like, if you're not going to start treating it as your home in plural, then what's the point? What's the point in moving in? Next one says, honey, shove him off. I don't care that you initially agreed to it, which I doubt by your wording, because it sounds like he's emotionally abusive and practically forced you to do what he wanted, or else. It is your home, your fur babies, and they were there before he was. My ex made me give up my cats because he was a sick sadistic F who played mind games with me and manipulated me into believing that he was more worthy than my boys. He wasn't. I miss my cats, and never again would I give up my babies for any man. Don't give up sleeping with your pets because of a man who wants to control you in your own home. Man, I think that people develop way too intense of an attachment to their pets, to be honest. And I say this as someone who really appreciates pets, but everything from, these are your fur babies, I won't give up my babies for any man. Like, they're not actually your babies, they're your pets. And it's pretty reasonable for people to treat their pets differently from how they would treat their children. Someone saying, I'm not comfortable with the dog in the bed is very, like, is very, very, very different, number one, from someone saying, get rid of the dogs completely, where I would agree, you know, I would say, no, I'm not going to get rid of my dog. If you have a problem with that, then that's your problem. But clearly we can't agree because the dog is important to me. But there's a huge difference between that and not sleeping with the dog in the same bed. And so it makes me a little bit sad when people project this type of experience on them. Because I agree, if he had said get rid of them, then fine. And if you got rid of your cats because of for a boyfriend, and you're regretting that decision now in hindsight, it's not fair to push that onto this particular situation and to assume that OP here has the same should react in the same way. But that's my opinion, and I think it's a rather unpopular one. The next one is, am I the a-hole for scolding my daughter for letting the dog run away? My girlfriend Sarah and I have been discussing taking a road trip for a while due to the stress we had both been under. It was my 9-year-old daughter Emily's weekend with me, so it meant that she'd be coming along with us. We decided to make the trip on Emily's weekend with me, and Sarah's Yorkie puppy, Daisy, had to come along. I informed Emily that she had to stay in the car and watch Daisy while Sarah and I made a few stops. Emily seemed to understand and was content, playing on her iPad and eating snacks. After a few stops, however, Emily started acting strangely. I asked her what was the matter, and she said that she was getting bored. I told her, sorry, hun, but she knew what she was in for from the get-go. We could all do something together later. Emily reluctantly agreed. At one point, I stopped at a gas station to buy a drink, and Sarah went to use the restroom. When I returned, not even 15 minutes later, the back door was wide open and Emily was crying next to the car. Daisy was gone. Emily confessed that she was bored and wanted to get out of the car, and Daisy jumped out. Traffic was too busy for her to run after him. We drove around looking for Daisy with no luck, and Sarah was inconsolable. I was so angry and disappointed with Emily that I couldn't even look at her. I tried to explain to her why what she had done was wrong, but she just kept crying. The road trip was cut short and I dropped Emily back at her mum's house. Emily was really upset, but I was still mad and couldn't speak to her. I was too mad to even hug her or say goodbye. Her mum called me cruel and conniving, but I told her it was awful what Emily had done to Sarah's dog. I felt so helpless. I wanted this weekend to be good for all of us. Am I the a-hole? Yes, OP, you are the a-hole. Why? Because looking after the dog is your responsibility and your girlfriend's responsibility, like Sarah in this situation, Sarah's responsibility and your responsibility. It is not the 9-year-old child who is responsible for making that the dog is okay. Yes, the 9-year-old child did mess up. Clearly, she understood that she messed up because she kept crying about it and she felt awful about it. But I would not expect the same level of, let's say, long-term planning from a 9-year-old that I am capable of as an adult. And you're the person, you should have been responsible for both of them, actually. Leaving a 9-year-old in a car that she can open for 15 minutes seems a little bit dodgy to me at a petrol station when you are on a road trip. Like that does not seem like very good parental behavior from my side. And then leaving her with a dog, again, unattended, in a car that she could open, that you knew she was uncomfortable in, that she knew she was bored in, that you knew she wanted to get up and go outside. Like, I don't understand why you didn't take her with you, why you didn't leash the dog. The fact that the dog was also like not leashed at all inside the car is strange to me. So yeah. Completely 100%, as far as I'm concerned, you are the a-hole. This situation would have been totally avoided if you had shown a little bit more responsibility and a little bit more care towards both your daughter and the dog. And it's easy to blame her for it because I can only imagine how heartbreaking it is to have a dog, especially a puppy, escape and then not be able to find them. Like, that's utterly, I would also be extremely distraught and very sad and very upset by it happening. But unfortunately, you kind of only have yourselves to blame. The adults in the situation are the primary ones to blame. I think when you freak out at a child like this and blame her for it, it's because you can't handle the guilt of having messed up yourself. You can see some of the comments actually do not agree. One person here says, do people think 9-year-olds are stupid or incapable of basic common effing sense? Sure, they can be irrational and annoying on occasion, but they're not incapable of using their brain. Everyone saying you're the a-hole make it painfully obvious that they have no children, which isn't surprising. Am I the a-hole? Is full of kids that like to pretend they understand life. You're not necessarily in the right for treating your kids with resentment, but you're not the a-hole in this situation. There is no a-hole. Mistakes happen and things suck. I lost my dog in a similar situation, carried resentment, regret, and pain for almost a decade because of it. The thing is, it wasn't anyone's fault, or it was everyone's fault. Either way, nobody makes the right choice in every single situation, and nobody should be blamed nor forced to carry that. This is a tragic loss for your entire family, even Emily, though it may not seem like it in the heat of the moment while influenced by anger and sadness. Please, please treat it as such and allow all of you to grieve together. And yeah, fair enough. Of course, mistakes happen. I'm not saying that OP did not make a mistake, and sure, like, I would be like, okay, we messed up and this is our fault. But blaming the kid for it is the part that makes you the a-hole. Like, if you flip out at the child who is not responsible for your dog, then that's not fair. That's not fair on the kid either. One other one here says, not the a-hole. The amount of people saying you're the a-hole here makes me afraid for the next generation of kids that will be raised without learning responsibility and accountability. A 9-year-old is not incompetent to the point where she can't understand a simple task as stay here and we'll be right back. She was given a task, didn't obey it, and needs to learn to be held accountable for her actions. And yes, that learning starts at the age of 9. Now, I fundamentally agree with the concept of 9-year-olds are old enough that they should be able to understand consequences and you can hold them accountable for their actions. But this is very much one of those situations where the parents messed up. Like, you put her in a situation where she was uncomfortable. You knew she was uncomfortable. She told you that she was uncomfortable. And then you left her unattended with an unleashed dog and an open car that she could open and escape at any time. So you kind of put all of the things in place that needed to be there for the mistake to happen. And then the expectation is that the kid would have been the safety pin that holds it all together. And that's not a fair amount of responsibility to push on a 9-year-old. It's very, very different from saying, or from holding a 9-year-old accountable for her actions, where if her actions result in, for example, she throws a toy and the toy breaks and then you choose not to buy her another toy, then yeah, of course, fair enough. That is holding her accountable for her actions. But blaming her for a dog escaping when you put her in that situation is not cool. Am I the a-hole for firing the babysitter because she brought her dog to my house? This happened this past weekend. My male 33 years old wife, who's also 33 years old, female, and I have a 6-month-old kid. My wife and I planned a date night and we hired our babysitter. We've used a dozen times. The babysitter is a college student that lived in our neighborhood and came recommended by some friends that had kids. Babysitter is a 20-year-old. She came over to our house. We told her our son's schedule, then headed out. We were going to go out for dinner and then meet up with friends for drinks. We have 2 cameras in our house that we can access remotely to check in on our son. One is over his bed and the other is over his play area in the living room. The babysitter knows about both cameras, so it isn't like we were spying on her. My wife gets a notification that there is motion in the play area. She pulls it up to check in. She sees a dog sniffing our son. We are both like, WTF. We don't own any dogs and have no plans to ever own any dogs. We try calling, no answer, so we rush home. We go inside and the babysitter is holding our son and there is a golden retriever just hanging out. Everyone is calm and fine. The babysitter seems shocked that we're already home. I asked the babysitter why there's a dog in our house. She says it's her golden retriever and decided to bring it today. The babysitter assures us the dog is baby and kid friendly and is sweet and safe. I don't want my son around dogs at such a young age, even if they are sweet and safe. I'm getting more and more angry. This was not something that she was transparent about, and if we knew the dog was going to be there, I would have never okayed it. I just firmly tell her to grab her dog and please leave. I inform her we won't be using her in the future and pay her half her rate that we had agreed upon, mostly since we used her less than half the time that we were going to be out. She asks for the full amount. I told her, no, you put my kid in danger and you should leave. She says she did nothing wrong, but I don't see it that way. So was I the a-hole? And no, I don't think it's cool to bring your dog to someone else's home without telling them and without their permission. That's already makes her in the wrong here. And then it's way, 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 way worse to bring a dog to someone's home while you're there being responsible for their child, especially a young child. Now, yes, golden retrievers are sweet and safe, and it's not likely that something will happen to the kid, but it is not like if someone had, for example, tried to babysit my kid and they brought over a pit bull, I would go completely bonkers insane on them. And I think that even if they say no, but look, our pit bull has been around lots of people and they're really safe and they've been around kids before and, you know, I really trust them and I was really watching and so on, I would still be like, this is a level, like sometimes, for example, very possible for a golden retriever too, if they're very young and very excitable. So say like a 1-year-old male golden retriever, it's very possible that they're just excited. They don't understand how much energy they have, how much force they have. And then, you know, they swish their tail once and your kid falls over and cracks their head open. That could very, very much happen. So yes, when you have dogs around kids, you need to be very, very careful. And it's not a question of the dogs themselves being inherently dangerous or being a huge problem or being diseased or something that you don't want them around your kids. But it's just one of those things that as someone who has both a baby and a dog in the house, you as parents have to be very, very vigilant and very careful about what's going on. And I would not trust a babysitter who's going to be babysitting for a couple of hours to have the same level of care that I would want to have around my child if they're being introduced to a dog. So that's how I feel about that one. I think it's completely unnecessary to bring her over. It's your responsibility to have asked at minimum. But then to do it when you are looking after a child is kind of not cool. Now you'll see some of the comments here have a very, very different response to it. So some people, especially who are happy with the dog, this person says, you're the a-hole for speaking to her like that. Your child wasn't in danger. You're just overly cautious new parents that don't know anything yet. And I think that that's just completely unreasonable as a response. They may be overly cautious young parents, but it's not like you don't expect, as a parent, it is completely fair to have a boundary that says you should not be having my kids around things that I don't want. And if you're hiring someone to babysit, then they are absolutely not allowed to do things with them that you don't think are cool. And then you'll see a couple of the other comments really kind of pull apart this particular point about the dogs being dangerous. So this one says, not the a-hole, I don't agree with your fears about putting your child in danger. The kid was perfectly safe, but that's not really the point. Your home, your kid, your decision. And yeah, fair enough. Again, if you argue that golden retrievers are really, really nice dogs, and they're not aggressive dogs at all, but accidents happen, and accidents are much more prone to happen around dogs than they are around just babies. They're already pretty prone to happen around babies, for what it's worth, but the combination of dog plus baby makes it so much worse. And so, yeah, maybe he should not have gotten angry, but honestly, like, it's completely reasonable to get angry at someone that you're paying to look after your child who decides to bring a dog into your house. Like, that's, so no, I still do not think that he is the a-hole for thinking that she made a mistake here. And the final one, am I, 25-year-old woman, wrong for being hurt about how my boyfriend, 25-year-old male, got his dog? Me and my boyfriend have been together for 4 years now. Way before we started dating, he got his dog. He told me that he found his dog in the woods while hunting for years. I've been telling people that's how he got his dog. Yesterday, we went to the beach with some friends, and one of my boyfriend's friends, who is my classmate, his wife and daughter. We were all chilling at the beach, and his friend's wife goes, "By the way, Rosie is my dog, and her name was something else." I immediately was confused because I had no idea what she was talking about. Mind you, it's been about 2 years that we've been living together, and at this point, Rosie is my dog too, and I love her so much. Anyway, I asked him about it in the car, and he kept saying, it's not her dog. And I was like, okay, so why would she say that? And he kept telling me, I don't know, until finally he came clean and said that he got it from them, and he lied about getting her in the mountains while hunting to sound cool. I'm really pissed because he lied, and I hate liars. I don't care that he lied about how he got her. I'm more mad at the fact that he tried to lie when I ask. Now, I kind of agree fundamentally that the moment you lie about something inconsequential, especially if you're able to carry that lie on for a really long time, and here it's been years, OP says, then that would pretty fundamentally damage my trust in my partner, because I would always question, like, okay, but if you're happy to lie about things that really don't matter in the great scheme of things like that, then how do I know that you're not happy to lie about other things as well? What I can imagine happened is that he wanted to impress her, and he thought that it would impress her a lot more if he told her that he got the dog in the woods while hunting, because that sounds like a much cooler story to sell. And that then once he managed to, like, I assume that that's one of the first things that he explained to her when they met, like they were still pretty early in their relationship. And then after he said that, he did not want to own up to it because he knew that it would both damage her trust in him and reduce his cool factor by quite a lot when she realized that he lied about that. I assume that that's what happened. So I'm going to say, let's assume that the boyfriend here just messed up and he didn't mean to, and he will learn from this experience and not lie again. But I think that for me would depend on, have I caught him out on other lies before? And if it seems like he does lie quite loosely with a lot of things, even inconsequential things that really don't matter, or even especially with inconsequential things that don't matter, then that would be a red flag for me, because I don't think that you can have such an easy time with these types of things unless you're comfortable with lying across the board. And so that's a problem for me. Now you can see some of the comments here. This person said, honestly, I just laugh it off. He got caught spinning a tall tale and was embarrassed to come clean. It has nothing to do with you or your relationship. Yeah, I think that you could respond that way. Like I said, only if I felt like he was otherwise a pretty honest man. If he's not generally honest, then that's a problem. And then here, another one kind of backs up what I said. This one says, things that guys say early on in the relationship to get themselves inside your pants. And OP replies, disgusting, which is fair enough. I think that it's not the best way to try and endear yourself to women in general. I think if you're going to overblow yourself up a little bit, then you should do it about things or with things that you can, let's say, that don't get you caught up in a lie for good. And that's really the problem. If you like this video, feel free to like the video down below or leave a comment if you disagree with anything that I've said. You can also check out some of my other videos that are relatively similar and cover similar topics. I'll see you in the next one.